And in my GitHub, I have a repository of scripts for automating the packaging of traditional apps to an MSX. I spin up a VM, I download the tools, and I have an alert set up for when a new VM lands, a new application version lands on the internet. Then I find out the silent install, and then I install the app and capture it to an MSX, apply the certificate, and then export it, and then tear all the VM down and everything like that. I wrote this before the advent of AI coding help, so this was all manual. And I think it's something like 3,500 lines of PowerShell to do all of that.
Wow.
And one of the demos I put on LinkedIn, I thought was a great example, is exactly that in a Kua, and it just goes and packages the app when it's out. And it's like 12 lines of instructions.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Impact of AI Explored, where we sit with Jim Moyle. Jim, you said in a recent LinkedIn post that your audience workflow isn't broken, they're waiting for an upgrade. But most people hear AI agents and still picture a chatbot. What are they missing in that picture?
So over the past 3 months, my entire workflow has completely changed. Because I started using Agentic AI and Second Brain together. And it's absolutely revolutionized the way I work. And everybody I speak to who has implemented a similar thing, they're also just as evangelical about it as I am. So it's a really interesting way of working. So it's a combination of two things. One is Second Brain, and two is Agentic AI.
Sounds like a cool thing. Yeah. So we had in the previous episode we had Brian Madden and his colleague Chris was also on an episode talking about the Second Brain stuff. So that's a really cool concept to dive into. But first off, you said the last 3 months your work changed. How did you get into this AI field?
And so it's funny. So the way I work has changed just because at Microsoft we're encouraged to experiment with AI, and I've got obviously friends and colleagues, and one of them came to me and said, "Hey, I'm doing this cool thing. Do you want to see it?" And I saw it, and I'm like, "That is a cool thing. I do want to test it." And I started immediately getting value from it. At the same time, I started a new role within Windows Cloud with Windows 365 for agents. And those two things were coincidental.
A lucky coincidence.
Yeah, it's a lucky coincidence that those two things happened to mesh together very well. And the story I tell about Windows 365 for agents being, an agentic workflow that runs on Windows really dovetails perfectly with the sort of personal experience that I've happened to come across with the Second Brain workflow as well.
Oh, okay, so walk us through about how does this process work? So you have an agent running on a cloud PC or some kind, and that's doing something. So how does that process work?
Are we talking about Windows 365 for agents or the Second Brain right now, or both?
The first, let's talk about the 365 for agents.
Okay.
And then we'll add the Second Brain part in a bit.
No worries. So Windows 365 for agents is a new feature from the Windows Cloud team who gave you Windows 365 and Azure Virtual Desktop. And it is...
Lots of love for that team.
And it is a version of Windows 365 which is designed specifically for an agent to log on to and do work inside that VM, and not a human to log on and do work inside that VM. So if you believe that agentic AI is the future, as I do, like we talked about with my new workflow, then this wave of agentic work is coming to all enterprises. Maybe people don't agree with that, but let's just take that as an assumption for now. So at that point, you need a a compute substrate now. That could be Windows VMs, it could be Linux VMs, it could be containers, it could be anything. But you need some kind of compute substrate that those agents need to run on. If one of those agents controls Windows, then EUC and Windows 365 is a perfect place to put that agent. Because whether it's a human or an agent, you still need governance, security, auditability, compliance, telemetry, scalability, delivering apps, delivering images, and keeping that all up to date and running over time for, what could be hundreds of thousands of both humans and agents running on these VMs. And all of that, the EUC team knows how to do really well. And we, as the Windows Cloud team, know how to do really well. Now, we've had to add in, to make this a proper product, things like observability, because unlike when a human's on a machine, you need to see everything that an agent's doing. When a human's on the machine, you shouldn't see everything that they're doing. When an agent's on the machine, you absolutely should. And the ability to control that. So we've got an MCP server. This is the AI podcast. I don't need to explain MCP to anybody here, right? We're good. We're good.
No,
Excellent.
we're good. Yeah.
That sits in front of Windows 365 for agents. So now you can take a agent that you've created either in first party or in third party tooling, and you can control from the outside VMs. You can see what's going on inside the VMs. You can see the instructions as they're happening, and you can see what is being controlled inside those VMs. So effectively, you've got an agent somewhere that is talking to an MCP, which is marionetting, like a doll,
A mouse and keyboard.
Yeah, the mouse and keyboard, but also the accessibility tree within the UI. So if there's something that you can't get to within the instructions, you can get to it through the accessibility tree for the UI as well. So anything you can do to the OS, to apps, to browsers, as a user, you can do through an agent on the Windows 365 platform now.
Wow, so that unlocks a whole lot of legacy applications that don't have APIs that an agent couldn't talk to otherwise.
So that's true. However, and don't get me wrong, I love an MCP. Yeah, I use MCPs all the time. However, there are a lot of occasions where I either look for an MCP and it isn't there, even though it's a SaaS platform that definitely has a REST API, or there is an MCP and it's open source and I don't know the provenance of that MCP. Or to be honest with you, I just want this one thing, one time from this website. It may have an MCP, but I don't want to download and install it, because then that takes up my context window forever. And, MCPs aren't always the answer, even if there is an MCP there, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
So my sort of view on this is, if you have a reliable, accurate, speedy, observable queuer, then a lot of those sort of like occasional MCP usages, you don't really need. Yeah, you can just use the queuer. If you're using the queuer for some things, then you can just use it for more things if you really want to. So I don't say it's limited to a legacy app workload. It's every time that an MCP isn't present or isn't worth it.
Yeah, or otherwise APIs don't do what they're supposed to do, or they're complex, because what we see in organizations is there's a lot of legacy stuff there, and yes, we have a documented API. It just works differently than documented.
Yes, very true. Do you have an API? Do you have a document? Yes, I have both of those.
Yes, but they are not about the same thing. So okay. And how does that work? So does that agent get its own Entra ID, or is it its own virtual being?
So that is a great question. So the agent on the VM gets its own Entra ID account. So you can restrict permissions and you can track what that identity does, because it's part of your Entra ID tenant. So all the permissions that you can, and restrictions and policy and everything else that you're used to applying across your tenant, you can apply to these agents as well.
That's interesting. And does it then do that stuff with its own identity, or can it also use your identity inside
It does it with its own identity. So if you're talking about doing on behalf of, then that is something that we're looking into.
Yeah. Okay.
However, certainly because we're only just GA with this really in June. We definitely wanted to make sure that our first release makes the security controls there, because it's doing it under its own identity. And depending on how people want on behalf of to work or not in an enterprise in a secure manner, then we'll make sure that happens. But like I said, that's not a roadmap promise. I'm just saying we're looking into that.
No, I can imagine. Right, but the cool thing is we can finally blame AI if it goes wrong. So, well, the AI logged on and did it. I didn't do it. That solves that problem.
Yeah.
And you talked about there's also a human in the loop possibility here. How does that work? Because I can imagine if you ask an agent to do stuff and it will do it on the VM, that there's a little bit of observability in the back end, but perhaps you need to hook into the process at one point. Is that something that you can ask it to, or?
So you can observe what it's doing in real time. So we have a WebRTC feed that comes directly out from the agent PC to wherever is controlling it. And so you can actually watch it work if you really want to. Especially, that's super useful to you in the first few runs to see where it can be optimized. Is it finding stuff the first time, or is it having to go back and correct itself? Could you refine the instructions a bit to make it slightly quicker? That's a great bit to observe exactly what it's doing as it's doing it. And then you can step in at any point, at which point the recording stops, because now you're a human and you shouldn't be recording humans.
Yeah.
And you can either sort of like correct something that's gone wrong, or you can put it in as the final step where you're doing a verification of everything that the AI has done. So you can do human in a loop like that.
Cool. So there's a constant feed of what the agent is doing on the screen. You can tap into that if you want, or you can just let it run. And does it come back to you when it encounters an error saying, I don't know what to do?
Yeah. So if it can't continue with the instructions, can't try and fix the instructions, then yes. But this depends a lot on the agent, because this is an MCP tool, right? So that an agent is using. So the MCP will say, yeah, no, I didn't manage to achieve that. And then we'll report back to the agent. Then what happens after that depends on the agent that you as the enterprise IT admin or the third-party agent builder has done. To whatever happens next is whatever that agent builder does with that logic.
The error handling is done by the agent. So
yes,
the cloud. So the agent in the cloud and PC gives back, Houston, we got a problem, and what we're going to do with the problem is for the agent that invokes the task. Okay, check. Cool. And you said it's running on Cloud PC or AVD.
No, I said it's running on Cloud PC. Only Cloud PC, Windows 365, not AVD. Very, very important distinction to make.
Exactly. Then it's good that I made that error. And how do you do does the same optimization that you can do with Cloud PCs also work here? So you can scale up once you find out if that the agent is not, it's taking too long, or there are memory or CPU issues?
So you get one agent per VM. So it's more sort of scale out rather than scale up, if you see what I mean.
Okay. Yeah.
And you can pre-provision VMs, and then they're quicker to start because you just have to boot them. There is a storage charge of $5 a month for having a VM pre-provisioned. Otherwise, these VMs are provisioned on demand and then deprovisioned on demand.
Yeah, okay. So it's more task-based. So you can give it a task, it will run the task, and then it will destroy itself or remove itself once it's done.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking about how to maintain all of that. But if your deployment Cloud PC or VDI, whatever deployment tool is working optimum, then it's just deploying the image, running the stuff, deleting it.
Yep, exactly.
And then there's a small window where it's running, and then you're all done with it. Oh, that's really cool. And is there a different cost model for these agentic cloud PCs?
Yeah, so for the first time, really, for Windows 365, we're doing a consumption model. So effectively pay per hour for usage. So you don't pay for deployment time. You don't pay for the cleanup time. You just pay for the hours usage. So if you're over 60 minutes, you're going to pay for 2 hours. If you're below 60 minutes, you're going to pay for 1 hour. There's slightly more nuance than that, but that's effectively it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but that makes it a really cool option because you only pay for what you use. That's of course what consumption model is, but instead of a cloud PCs where you pay in a fixed amount and it runs the whole month for you, just runs when you need it.
Yep.
Cool. That's a very interesting thing. I have to find some time in the weekend to play with this.
So
shifting a little bit to the second brain and agentic workflow together. How
So
have you made that work?
just before we leave the topic, when you say you want to go
Yeah.
play with this, and there's two options. We do have a first party agent, so you can go to M365 Copilot, and you can use the Cura option there, which is the platform underneath is Windows 365 for agents, and that is where we've built an agent, and you just use our agent.
Oh, yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Or there's under Agent 365 where you can register your agent blueprint, and then you can additionally use our QA there, which is just using the platform directly. So the M365 Copilot, that's kind of our first party agent, and Agent 365 is where third party agents go in.
Cool. I'll add both links in the show notes for the listeners to
Great.
look at so they can also spend their free time playing around with AI. even more AI, and that brings me to the segue that I wanted to talk about is you use Second Brain, so where you store a lot of the things that you think about on a special place where AI can help you use that in to help you think even more clearer, be more creative, and everything that you thought of in the past is still available.
Yep.
Well, at least I have a very bad memory, and that helps. So AI helps me a lot to be a little more thinkable about what I said a few years back. But how did you use Second Brain in combination with Agentic?
So I obviously, my second brain is just some markdown files.
Yeah.
But it's split up into sort of projects and areas and people cards and partner cards and all sorts of things, which are all indexed together and where, I store ideas and history and everything like that. However, I want to go and do things. Yeah. So if I have a meeting with some devs and we have decided that there's a new technical way we're going to do something in a product feature, and that's the decision made. Then my meeting synthesis skill from my second brain will go and take that, and it will update the source of product truth. But really, where that information needs to go is the Azure DevOps platform, which is what Microsoft uses internally to run their software development. So either we need to create a deliverable or change a deliverable or do anything like that. And now this is a good use case for an MCP because we have a Azure DevOps MCP with very specific, very sort of targeted, create or update work item. So that's great for that. However, there are a lot of other systems I may need to use internally that don't have an MCP. So at that point, I can say, well, maybe I need to go and entitle somebody. We have an identity platform internally that is web-based that we, give people access to various resources. I need to give somebody access to that. And now I can get my Windows 365 for agents to go and use that web page and do that entitlement for me because I never want to leave my second brain. It's not just because of the context switching to external applications, which whilst there is, a friction that I don't want. But the real key is the stuff I'm getting back from those external applications doesn't go into my second brain and get indexed properly if I'm not doing it via my second brain.
Mhm.
So if I can retrieve that information from those external applications and put it back and index it properly in my second brain, then that is the perfect way of doing things.
Oh wow! So you're using the agentic AI to do the stuff, so you can stay in your second brain, and it will do stuff on the background, come
Yeah,
back, and you can use these responses. That helps in the context switching, because that's what I find irritating a lot. But you said if you have 6 applications open, oh yeah, this is this interface. Where did that button go? You don't need to. AI is going to solve that for you. You can stay focused on your
yeah,
primary task.
yeah. And I love the second brain because somebody can say, oh, I'm doing a newsletter. Give me a 4-week update on this product feature what's the update since this date? And I
Mhm.
can, and that ask comes in at like 5:30 on a Friday afternoon, and somebody wants it for Monday morning. Like, this would have been a very annoying request previously, but now it's 2 minutes. I can give them that information because the person who's requested it has a people card, so I know their relationship. The audience is the newsletter. The AI knows that, and obviously it knows everything about the feature I've been working on or the project I've been working on. So there we go, done.
Yeah, all information is here somewhere.
Yep.
My second brain will figure it out. And do you let that it send it automatically, or do you check if the content is it's content is okay?
So it depends on what it's doing. So I would say that for some stuff, it's absolutely fine. And, there's especially the stuff I do a lot because I've managed to tweak the skills and the lessons so that, I have a high degree of trust in it in some things. Some
Mhm.
things which I do less often, my trust is lower because I haven't had the chance to tweak it. So I had to build that trust up in that particular skill. So yes, sometimes, and no, sometimes. But over time, as more and more things are repeated and I get the chance to refine things, then my trust in that individual skill will then increase.
Yeah, so it's just the success will define if it's doing it good
Yes.
enough. And do you see that as something that's happening more and more inside of Microsoft or in your
Yeah.
community? You do a lot of community, Jim, UC, UC forum, etc. Do you hear that also there, that more and more people are doing it?
So less in the community, but I feel it's coming because I've done presentations on Second Brain and Windows 365 for Agents, and the response from the audience is, "Hang on a minute, you can you, you can do what now?"
Yeah, yeah. It's the aha moment.
Yeah,
Yeah. Ah.
and so I want to answer a question about Second Brain cost, which is that everybody always asks me, "Oh, Jim, you work
Oh
at
yeah.
Microsoft. Your tokens are free, effectively." I'm like, "Yes, that is true." So I've gone away and I have worked out what the cost would be to live in a second brain for work every single day of a working month. And
Oh wow.
yeah, and it is about 80 to 90 pounds per month. And the reason being is that most of these tokens are cached.
Yeah.
So uncached tokens are expensive, cash tokens are very cheap. So I would say 95% of the tokens I use are cached,
Yeah.
which
And
means
that saves
that
some cost.
even though I use 216 million tokens,
Specs.
because like high 90 odd percent are cash tokens, then which are, orders of magnitude cheaper than uncashed tokens, then you come to about £80 a week for a person on
A
the
month.
street a month.
Yeah. That okay. And that in where you can be, what I feel, because I also use it sometimes twice as effective in what you are doing, is a steal.
I don't understand the question. Sorry, good John.
No. It's because if you use Second Brain a lot and you can be more effective at what you do,
Oh,
80 quid a month is a steal. It's
oh,
not
absolutely.
expensive.
It makes me so much more effective. If I, I don't want to move from Microsoft, but if I ever did want to take a new role outside of Microsoft, it would be a condition of my employment that I was allowed to do this.
Yeah. Use of AI should be mandatory.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Well,
I'm
not
not coming.
mandatory, but if you want to use it sensibly and get excellent productivity results, then yeah, it's a steal, as you say, it's a steal at that price.
Yeah, and you said the EUC professionals that you work with and you speak a lot in the community are best positions for this agent era because we, as EUC people, know about maintaining. Can you elaborate a bit about that?
Yeah, so the whether you're running on Windows or Linux, or it doesn't matter, right? Just because you've got an agent running the UI, you have the same responsibility as the infrastructure owner as a human running the UI. In fact, you have even slightly more. But 95% of those responsibilities we've already got. We've already got the skill set. We know how to do security, compliant, auditing, monitoring. We have that in the scalability. We have that in the bag.
Mhm.
So if you have this agentic, excuse me, agentic wave of working coming to your organization, and you as the EUC professional should be sitting your hand up and saying, I can make this run securely in our organization. I have the
Yeah,
skill
give that
set.
to me.
Yeah, give that to me. Now, there is another thing where it isn't just infrastructure, which is if you think about the way of working I've described, so I live in my second brain. Isn't that exactly end user computing? Isn't that just a new interface that an end user is using? Surely
Yeah,
that should fall under the end user computing team. So now you can say, actually, well, I have all of these personas that I already know about. I know what apps they use. I know their workflows because this is what I've been dealing with for the last 20 years. Why don't I write some agents for the highest value workflows for you to start off with? Why don't I write some skills for agents to use for these applications? Why don't I develop an MCP for our internal web app that everybody uses 3 times a day? Why don't I develop all this stuff? Because if end user computing is defined as what the end user uses to do to do their job, that's going to
that's what
be
we use. Yeah,
then that's what we as that team should be providing to those users. So we should be saying, "Yep, got this. You can
yeah,
trust us, and we're going to get it done." And I think it actually just naturally falls into that EUC skill set, EUC way of working because we understand how everything fits together. Everybody's got a bit of networking, a bit of security, a bit of storage because they're EUC.
yeah. We touch everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes it cool. That makes it cool and complex because it does change us from being more of the management to also being more on the front end, thinking about, okay, what processes should I automate or should I use an agent for? It does require us to change our mindset as EUC
Yes.
professionals.
Yes. But if you're anxious to learn and change and develop in your role and grow and this would look great in a resume or a CV, then yeah, just step up and you just start. Like, there's loads of guides out there how to start a second brain.
Yeah.
Go follow
Yeah,
one of
just
those guides and start using it, and then you'll start using the agentic workflow, and then you'll see how valuable it is. And then, like me, you'll come to realize it's coming for all of our organizations. And then, as the person who's providing this infrastructure to the organization, like, well, that should be me too.
Yeah. Let me please have that piece of the pie also.
Yeah.
Let me fix that for you. Yeah, and that also keeps us on the ball and important in our organization in the common
absolutely.
future. Because a lot of our work will change, and we need new work to do. And this is a very cool thing to do. So a little bit about the adoption rate. It's just been released. Do you see, talking about the M365 for agents, closing a bit off on that, do you see a lot of usage coming already from organizations thinking, this is what I was missing?
So it's super new. But we do see a lot of people like doing essentially onboarding right now. So people have got a lot of scenarios talking not just to customers, but a lot of partners are saying, actually, I have this product, but I know I can really use a computer using agent. So, so I'm not going to give any partners IP away because a lot of people are like under NDA at the moment. But so this is from my personal experience rather than the partner. I used to be the PM for Appetouch, and in my GitHub I have a repository of scripts for automating the packaging of traditional apps to an MSX. And, I spin up a VM, I download the tools, and I have alerts set up for when a new VM lands, a new application version lands on the internet. Then I find out the silent install, and then I install the app and capture it to an MSX, apply the certificate, and then export it, and then tear all the VM down and everything like that. I wrote this before the advent of AI coding help, so this was all manual. And I think it's something like 3,500 lines of PowerShell to do all of that.
Wow.
And one of the demos I put on LinkedIn, I thought was a great example, is exactly that in a Kua, and it just goes and packages the app when it's out. And it's like 12 lines of instructions. and it does an Intune app it does an Intune Win app as well as an MSX.
Yeah. So that's the power. 3,500 lines of PowerShell written back into a 12-line instruction.
Yeah.
With the same result.
With exactly the same quality result. Yeah. And
wow,
not only the same quality result, like a script like I wrote is brittle. Yeah. If the tool changed or the API changed, or like there's loads of things that could make that break because it's a complicated thing to do. Many step process, and if any one of those steps fails, then it's failed. Whereas because all the provisioning and deprovisioning and everything else is done by Windows 365, so that's rock solid, and because instructions to an agent aren't deterministic, if something happens, it's likely that the agent will be able to recover.
Yeah.
So that's where I see the fact that, over time, this is much more resilient to change than a script would be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And what you said, it does its own fault handling to a degree. It will try to figure out how to get it fixed. And if it can't get it fixed, it will come back saying, I messed up. I don't know why.
And if you're writing the agent in the background, you can take the output of that VM, then you can change the instruction set. You can launch another Windows 365 for Agents VM, test out that instruction set. If it's good, bring it back in, patch your instructions, and then you're good for taking it onwards.
For the next run. Yeah.
For the next run. Yeah. And that is all the talk you could do it hands-free. And even because it's Windows 365, you could try 5 different patches to that instruction set separately and run them concurrently. And then you can pick the one that takes less time, is most accurate, and uses fewest tokens.
Yeah, exactly. Which is the cheapest or the best or both. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's talking about scalability and testing.
Yeah.
on a budget.
Yeah.
So summing this up, there are a lot of people that are in IT at the moment, and they are thinking about, okay, there's this whole agentic AI wave coming, and we don't have anything in place. What would you tell them to start with? To say, okay, wait, we have things like M365 agents, we have a lot of stuff coming our way, and we are more traditionally based. How should I get started?
So I would start with the second brain rather than the agentic AI, because like the components of a traditional prompt are the right instructions. So define what you want. Yeah. The right context, the right audience, and the right constraints. If you get those 4 things right, then you've got a good prompt. If you have a second brain, then the context, the audience, and the constraints are kind of built in. And then you can do very simple prompting with very little hallucination. Because if you have the context and the constraints and the audience all very well defined, then it reduces the chances of hallucination to, in my experience, near zero for certain workflows. And at that point, you can say, okay, well, if I have enough confidence that my hallucination rate is low enough that I can trust it doing this thing, then send it and do the agentic thing, make it go and change stuff. Because I would say without that, you're more in danger of hallucination. And if you've got something that is agentic and is actually going and changing things in the real world outside of the bubble of that chat, then you want to increase your degree of confidence and trust.
So it all starts with building the correct foundation, getting your second brain up and running, getting all the nips and nobbles all fixed.
So I think
scale it out from there.
Yeah, I think if you start doing the second brain thing, for me at least, the value was almost immediate. I could immediately see that this was going to be a game changer for me and for the way I worked. And it wasn't like I had to go and do all of this work and then the value started to appear. The value started to appear on day one and just got better and better over time.
So for an IT admin, start with your second brain. There are a lot of, we will link 1 or 2 guides on how to in the show notes, so you can start experimenting with it. And if you want to look into the agentic way that Windows 365 for agents works, we put some things in the show notes where you can look at how to start with it. Follow Jim Moyle on LinkedIn because he has a lot of cool stuff about that. And he's also a really cool guy to follow. And with that, Jim, very much, thank you very much for being our guest, for spending the time on our podcast and giving us cool insights about the future of agentic AI.
You're very welcome. It's been lovely to be a guest.
All right. See you all next time.